When people think of an IEP, they often think of the services that a child receives. While services are an important section of the IEP, the heart of the document is the present levels of academic and functional performance, or the PLAAFs. You may also hear people call it PLEPs. The PLAAFs are important because everything else in the IEP is linked to them. You can only determine appropriately ambitious goals if you know where the student is now, and you can only tell what services are needed by knowing how their exceptionality has affected their development and their progress in the curriculum. The PLAAFs also help as students transition from one teacher to the next. A well-written PLAAF helps the new teacher understand the student from day one. There are 4 required elements that must be within each PLAAF: current academic performance, current functional performance, the impact of the exceptionality on learning and access to the curriculum, and baseline information related to the goals. While our PLAAFs are broken up into different developmental domains, from motor all the way through communication, the entire section is considered PLAAFs, and these elements just need to be met somewhere in that section. When writing PLAAFs, it is helpful to structure your paragraphs in an easily read manner. The most effective way is to start with a general statement, add broad detail, then add specific details where appropriate. Let's look at some examples. The first section in each PLAAF domain is the general information, including strength section. This is where you write about how the student engages with the domain and what they do well or typically compared to their peers. Read about Beth below. Notice how the paragraph starts broadly and ends with specific behaviors that help explain how Beth does with math. The next section is the special education needs section. This section highlights where a student struggles within the domain. It is important to provide specific data that demonstrates the needs and to provide comparison to grade level standards and/or peer performance. This detail helps the team understand the level of need. Read here about Beth's needs and strategies that have been helpful in addressing these needs. The next section is current level of functioning related to goals. In this section, you can provide a summary of the student's progress toward their most recent goals. You can also document baseline data related to the proposed goal on the current IEP. The last section is the impact section. This is where we connect the difficulties associated with the student's exceptionality and their development in the domain area to their ability to progress in the general education curriculum. There are many times when a student does not have a special ed need in a domain, but it can still be appropriate to provide information. Look at this example of a PLAAF in an area with no need. We need to provide a PLAAF statement for every academic area and then any other area where a child might have a strength that we want to demonstrate. Or they might have a need that's being met by general education services that we want to highlight in the IEP, but we really don't need a special ed service or any other special ed support in that area. PLAAFs can be complicated, but there are some tips that can make the process better. First, start early. Don't wait to start collecting data for the PLAAFs. Request information from parents and other staff about a month in advance of the meeting to allow time for their response. The best PLAAFs incorporate multiple perspectives and provide a well-rounded view of the child. Second, make notes as you are working with a child throughout the school year. It is easier to write from notes rather than from memory. Lastly, once you find ways you like to write and structure your PLAAFs, you will likely use templates and copy and paste to make things quicker. This is great, but make sure you check and double check to make sure names are correct. Having Johnny's name in Billy's IEP can make parents question the accuracy of everything else. Also, check pronouns for the same reason. Once you get to the meeting, now you'll present the PLAAFs. Avoid reading the PLAAFs as much as possible. This adds a lot of time to the meeting and can make it feel like you don't know the student. Use EPIC to structure your conversation, and remember, it's not about the boxes, it's about the kid. Talk about the PLAAFs in an order that makes sense for them.